The biggest challenge that I faced when switching from the more traditional manual machining to CNC machining was just to find skilled machinists in this industry. And that's right across Canada. Robotics and this type of CNC equipment is completely new to this company. And I don't think that there's any other option other than for us to use this type of technology if we all want to be players on the world platform. It started back in 2005 when my wife and I were living in Vancouver in a basement apartment and just realized we were never going to get ahead out there. I was just finishing off my tool and die making apprenticeship and decided I wanted to start a business. I took about 6 months writing a business plan, thinking quite honestly that I would just be able to walk into a COA and say, hey, here's a business plan and you should give me money to start this business. And it didn't work that way at all because they dot their I's and cross their T's and realized that I was a startup, from the ground up. I had nothing, we had no equity. And so they gave me some good advice and said, if you're gonna make a go of this, you're gonna have to, put in the time and put in the hours and take some risk yourself and prove to us that you actually have a viable business. So I started with $25,000 in my hand and a lot of effort and a lot of time, 7 days a week, like you'd hear from any entrepreneur. And I started with 2 machines and myself running the machines, about 16 hours a day for probably the first 7 or 8 months until I was able to get enough contracts coming in the door where I needed somebody else to help me. One of our customers was struggling with a vendor out of Ontario, and they were struggling not with the machining, but a post-process that they were really struggling with. And I had some experience with that process from doing my apprenticeship in North Vancouver. So when I heard about them having this struggle, I sort of presented what I thought would be an adequate solution. And they said, well, if you can come up with that solution and it works, that contract is yours. And so I proved that it would work. Essentially, they said, you can have that contract, as long as you're cost competitive, of course. We were able to do that, and so I was able at that point to go back to a COA and say, hey, listen, I can bring this work back to the East Coast out of Ontario, and that'll really be what I need to kickstart the rest of my growth strategy over the next 5 to 10 years. It has to be that the piece of equipment that I bought was more expensive than my house. So, just the sheer dollar value of investing in this type of equipment and looking at, how long that payback will be and am I actually going to be able to fill it with work? Am I going to be able to continue to grow and buy more equipment and bring in more customers with that equipment? We have, I think, 31 employees now. We certainly wouldn't have that number of employees if we still were using just manual machining. That concept that using older equipment will employ more people is just simply not true. Well, we're able to reach outside of our geographic region. So we become a player not just in Nova Scotia and in Atlantic Canada, in Canada, but internationally. So we're able to bid against contracts in the United States and be very competitive because we're using world-class equipment. It's not restricted by any sort of industry. It's really capable of making absolutely anything. So that could be oil and gas, that could be medical, it could be defense, it can be environmental. We make parts that go in tanks. We make parts that go up to the Arctic and are tracking the movement of icebergs and everything there in between. Having the 2 machines and the robot is essentially like having 6 more workers because it's capable of running 24 hours, 7 days a week. This really is the future of manufacturing, I think. There's so much opportunity outside of the borders of our own province. If you're not looking ahead and using this type of technology as a focus for your growth over the next 5 to 10 years, I think you're going to get left behind.